So tonight, Chris P is going to be sharing. Chris, here's what I know for a fact. I know for a fact that Chris works all week throughout the day. I know Tuesday, he, after work, went to Salvation Army and conducted an H&I meeting. So that was till after 8. I know Wednesdays is home group. So I know where to find him, right? That's at 7:15 till 8:30. So he worked all day. And so I'm pretty sure the last thing he wanted was me yesterday to hit him up and be like, hey, will you come out to Avenues and share your 37, 30, 38 plus years of experience? And without hesitation, he said yes. So without further ado, Chris P.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris, and I'm a recovering addict, and I'm grateful to be clean today thanks to the grace of God, the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I came to the end of my using, it was November the 2nd, 1986 BC, before crack. And so at least I hadn't tried it yet. There was some around, but I hadn't tried it yet. And I was getting ready to go to prison for DUIs. You know, I was like a bartender one time for a long time, and I was a member of after hours clubs, and I would drink, and then I would use cocaine to keep drinking. And about 6 a.m, I'm out there driving, and ain't nobody out there but me and the cops, and I'm the one going like this. So I got a bunch of DUIs. I got 4 of them. I got out of 1 of them, but I just changed to reckless. And with the 3rd one, I knew, that I might do some prison time. And I started asking questions. I was like, how do I get out of this? It's like, I didn't say I want recovery. I just said, how do I keep from going to prison? And I had a person at work who, she let me know I had insurance. The thing was, I knew I was going to court for this 3rd DUI. I couldn't stop. And I had another blackout, and I was over on the amphib base when I woke up in my car on a bridge with a fence on either side of me and a gate closed in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, I get another DUI today. I'm going to be in prison for a long time. So I did the prayer that a lot of us do that only pray when they're in trouble. God, if you just get me out of this, I'll never do it again. And I've said that prayer many times in the past, but this time was different. I tried to back up my car. I was still drunk. I kept hitting the sides of the fence. And I saw this kid. It was over there. There's all water everywhere. He was going across this big water pipe, and he was walking across. I had the idea he was a paperboy because I used to be a paperboy. And I just said, hey, can you help me back up this car? And he goes, shit, no problem. He was like 13 or 14. And he just got in the car, backed it up, got it pointed in the right direction. And I thanked him, and I got home without getting stopped. And I stayed in my house, or the house I was living at, with 3 other guys that were all getting high. And I stayed in my room and kind of detoxed a little bit, a little shaking, a little sweating, a little, and then after about 3 days, I went back to work. And the place I worked at we built in-ground pools. It was called DNR pools. We called it drugs and rock and roll pools. Everybody got high. And we would get in the van in the morning, light up, get to the job, work really hard. And on the way back, we would get, beer, alcohol, whatever we were drinking, and drink all the way back. And so I'm in this place, getting ready to go do it all over again. And the secretary says, Chris, you have insurance with us. You could go to a treatment center and it would look good in court. That's all I heard. Look good in court. And I said, where? Where do I go? And there was this place called Serenity Lodge, back South Military Highway back in the day. Anyway, I got my mom, who was the only person who would still help me, and she gave me a ride to this Serenity Lodge. And I get there, and there's this guy who looks like a biker, because he is a biker, and he's doing the intake. And I'm like, I was a little put off by that because he had long beard, long hair, chains, all that stuff. But he said, your insurance pays 80%. That's really good. And I said, well, how much is the 20% I owe? And he said, oh, just $2,000. And I said, well, it's nice talking to you. I'm leaving. I don't have any money. I had somebody I worked with one time who was a clinician, and she was wondering why somebody that was a drug addict hadn't saved money for a rainy day. I was like, how long you been working this job? We use our money, your money, anybody else's money. We don't have any money left around. So anyway, he went to the back room, talked to somebody, and decided that I could get in for the 80%. So I'm like, I'm in this place where I've never heard of Narcotics Anonymous before. And like we're H&I, they had H&I back then. Somebody brought an NA meeting in there, and I heard the message for the first time. I had gone to AA before, but either I wasn't ready or I didn't like the way they were doing things and they didn't include me. So I walked out of that one. But this time I was ready and everybody was showing me love. He says, love you all the time. Tidewater area is the love you lots area of Narcotics Anonymous. So anyway, I got in there. I'd already had several days without doing anything because I was so scared from that last experience. I didn't have to detox much, but I was still, when you get in a treatment center, you're still hustling a little bit, trying to meet the women. We were playing cards for sugar packets that were really worth, 50 cents each. And we were putting money in our pocket, which is not a bad idea. It's not a good idea for an addict. Anyway, I finally started hearing the message after a few days. It was like maybe 10 days without anything in my body. I had an emotional breakdown. So I hadn't been that long without having something in my system for 22 years. And all of a sudden, I'm clean from drugs and my emotions come rushing back. And I started crying about everything. It's just like all these emotions come back. And you guys probably experiencing it. But this guy came in and shared his story. He shared his fourth fifth step, and he had done some things that I had never done, and I hope I never do, but I couldn't get over the fact that he was brave enough to share it with everyone. And I felt like he had dealt with some of this stuff and got it behind him. And I went up to him right after he shared, and all emotional, I asked him to be my sponsor. I recommend anybody in a treatment center get a sponsor before you get out of here or start working towards that. He was the guy who got NA started in Narcotics Anonymous. This is 1986, so his name's Mike Burke, who's passed away, so I could talk about him. But finally I had somebody I could talk to. I'd been isolated my whole life. I couldn't talk to my mom. I didn't want her to know what was going on. My dad treated me like a jerk. He was always calling me names. He was Navy chief. You know how they talk. Anyway, my brother, he was using with me, but I was the one really doing it. And he was just kind of in a band and doing a little bit, but he always made jokes and talked, trash about me. So couldn't confide in him. I didn't want my sister to know what was going on. All of a sudden I got this man who wants to hear what's going on with me, that cares about me and is willing, to put himself out there and share his stuff. And I can share my stuff. And now I'm not isolated anymore. As long as you don't share that stuff, you're isolated. As long as you keep these secrets from your past, they're going to get you eventually. The disease is right between your ears, and it doesn't go away unless you share something with somebody and they say, okay, that's cool. I did this too. You're all right. Let's not do that again. Let's forgive ourselves and move on, and so I had a sponsor right away. There was 35 people in the class of 86, and I was the only one who stayed clean. Okay. And other people got clean, soon after, but they relapsed and come back. And I couldn't drive. The state of Virginia had decided that it wasn't a good idea for me to be in a car. So I couldn't drive for 6 years until I was able to get my license back. But that didn't stop me. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew I was better than the guy at the front of the line, but I was always at the back of the line because I was using and unreliable, So I made a decision that I was going to give this a try. And every place I went in this treatment center, I had my ears open. I was listening. I was talking about my recovery, and I even got in a fight with this one woman who was like saying, well, I think it's this way and you think it's that way. And the next thing you know, she's like hitting on me and stuff. And she was actually a local celebrity on a TV show here back then. So, but anyway, it's like I got away from doing the wrong things right away, tried to do the right things, but I still had all those old habits. I was like, trying to get with the women and all that stuff. But I got this sponsor and I started going to meetings and I got rides. I got phone numbers. You get phone numbers to get rides. And I would normally would isolate because I don't want to ask for no help. But because I had to get to meetings, I couldn't drive myself. I got phone numbers. And then I found out you can't keep asking the same person to take you every night. You got to get more phone numbers, and then I got more phone numbers. I got a bicycle. I found out everybody had a pickup truck. And if I could get myself to the meeting on the bicycle, I could throw it in the back of the pickup truck and get a ride home. So I got involved right away. My sponsor was head of H&I, hospitals, institutions. I couldn't do H&I at first, so I had 6 months clean, but I could go to the meetings and learn all about it. And I went to a meeting every night, and I worked on this job where everybody used. So I'm getting in the same truck, same people passing the joint around. I'm sitting shotgun with the window open, and they're offering me this joint, say, oh, come on, one won't hurt you, one won't hurt you. I went on for a couple of weeks. Finally, we're on interstate, and I said, yeah, give it to me. And I flicked it out the window. And they were upset, but I said, I told you I didn't want it, respect my recovery. And they did. They never offered it to me again. And next thing you know, I'm working this job. We're Eastern Shore, and we're trying to do 2 pools in one long weekend. And these guys got money for food, but they're using it all for alcohol. And they're coming up to me saying, how come you're happy all the time? How come you always got money in your pocket? How come you never run out of cigarettes? And I said, because I don't use anymore, And they said, how can I do that? I said, you can come with me to a meeting. Next thing you know, 3 of those guys over time got clean. I stayed there a year because they were the ones who paid the insurance to get me, in that treatment center. But I went to meetings every night. I went to a convention, the 5th ABCNA. I got out of the treatment center in December. I was at that convention in January. Yeah. I went to a world convention in New Orleans, and we were partying on Bourbon Street, and some of them were relapsing, but I wasn't. And this world convention, man, there's like 10,000 people, and it's like, all celebrating recovery, happy to be alive, At first, there weren't very many meetings, but there was a meeting every night. And everybody did service work because that's how it had to be back then. Because it wasn't enough, everybody had to do something or we wouldn't survive. I had to deal with some of my issues, and one of them, I got to go to a spiritual retreat with this guy, Father Dan Egan, who's known as the Junkie Priest. He used to help people in New York City back as early as the 50s, heroin addicts and prostitutes. Mm-hmm. And we did a spiritual retreat because my sponsor set it up. And I got to come to him with some of that stuff I had in the 4th step. And I mean, he's like a Catholic priest. And he said, when I was worried about something I thought I would take to my grave and shared with my sponsor and him, he said, leave it alone. It's just like a scab that's healing. Don't mess with it, let go. And then I had all these issues with my dad. And they had this guy named John Bradshaw who was on public TV, and he did this book on the inner child. He did this book on family, he did all this stuff. And I went all the way to Houston, Texas, and did a workshop with him. It's like NA is the platform. And then you find out what you need to work on through this platform, and you go and get help. It's like seeing a psychiatrist or a counselor or therapist. You got a problem that you got to deal with, you go deal with it with the support of the people in these rooms. I started sponsoring people right away. When I went to school, I didn't go to school with the Black person until I was in Maury High School, and then it was predominantly Black. And I'm like, I'm flipping out, right? I don't know how to deal because I'm not racist, but I have all this fear and I have all this, I don't, misunderstanding and stuff. And this guy comes in NA, Calvin Hill, and he wants me to help him. He wants to get in my back pocket. And next thing you know, we're like best friends. And I'm like, we're doing everything together. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't have people I knew, but I didn't have somebody. I would go to their house. They would come to my house. He was in my wedding. It was like, and it all of a sudden, I'm meeting all these people that I had fear or maybe a resentment or maybe I didn't understand. I met this guy right away in recovery that was helping a lot of people. And then I found out that he used to be a woman.
Oh,
and he was actually a female jailer at the Norfolk City Jail and then changed over. And he just looked like a little old man with a bald head, and he was nice. And I said, what am I don't need to be afraid of this guy. I don't need to be weirded out. He's helping us. And then I met this other guy, Scott, with 3 T's. And he's like wearing all this jewelry like Liberace, plays the piano. And at first he didn't want to tell me too much about himself. Then he comes out of the closet and lets me know he's gay and stuff. And we like getting along great. It's like I have no more understanding of him and his situation. And it just really opened my eyes that, I don't have to be so isolated and afraid. You know what I mean? So I'm growing all the time. I got really spiritual right away. I found out in the treatment center, there's going to be times when there's nobody there to help you. And I started praying, even though I didn't understand the God of my understanding. But the thing is, I felt stronger when I got up. And we are all spiritual beings,
Yes,
living a human existence. And if we don't fan that spirituality in us, it was put out through all those drugs, we're not going to be in touch with the fact that we're spiritual beings. So I had to, I used so much I didn't feel it before. But now all of a sudden there's a fire growing and I'm caring about all these other people that I didn't, I'm getting more God-centered than self-centered. And this is not a religious program, but if you're religious, that works too. Just don't push it on everybody else, and everything about this is spiritual. I see like 4 people in here I know, and this is a program where you never give up. You just keep coming back and you keep trying, because a lot of people don't get it the first time. I'm one of the rare ones. I mean, I don't know if I got it, but I just didn't use it anymore till I got it. And I got the support of all these people around me. I get jobs through my friends in NA. I get a place to live through my friends in NA. My dad, who told me I was like a piece of shit, I was never going to amount to nothing, and he was sick of wiping my ass. That's how he talked. Finally, he's telling me he's proud of me. He loves me.
Yeah.
And he's saying, what are we going to do about those other 2 kids? I mean, I was the black sheep. Now they're not doing things right, Change happens. You got to believe that you can become who God intended you to be in the first place. Can't keep going back over and over again. That's insanity. I used to practice that insanity. I would have trouble. I'd go to the after hours club. I got a bottle back there and get drunk real quick. And then, I'm talking to some woman who's got a 6'7" husband over here, and he's about to, beat me up. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know. I was too drunk to care, so you gotta kind of wake up. And then I think, oh, well, I just need to, cut out the hard liquor, I'll drink some beer or I can't do crystal meth anymore, but I could do cocaine because that doesn't last as long. Or, I OD'd on heroin, so I can't ever do that again. But I could still do Quaaludes or whatever. It's like it's crazy. So you got to finally get rid of all those reservations and try and live life on life's terms and see what happens. You got to just brave it out for a little bit. You're not going to be the same person, but nobody wants that person. We want somebody who's, knows who they are, can get through life without getting high. You're going to find out that through the support of these rooms and people like Adam saying, I love you, you'll learn to love yourself. We'll love you till you love yourself. And once you do that, then you'll be loving somebody else till they learn to love themselves. And we help each other. It's a we program. I've worked through all 12 steps. I've worked through the traditions. I know some of the concepts. I've been involved in every area of service. I've gotten, like I said, I got jobs where I was on tugboats for 15 years to a friend of mine in recovery, got me a job. And I got my captain's license. I thought I'm on my way. I got married to a woman who decided to go back and use. We had a son together. She had to go to she went to New York for a treatment center in Long Island. It lasted a whole year. And I'm working tugboats where you're gone for 2 weeks and then you're home for 2 weeks. And I got like a 5-6-year-old child. I can't leave him anymore. So I had to get off the tugboats right after I got this captain's license. And I'm looking for work. And my sister now, she believes in me. She's got a friend who owns, a business where he's an independent distributor for Murray cookies. And it has all these other things they do, like Wise potato chips, this, that, yeah. And I buy his route, and now I'm owning a business.
All right.
And I'm like, I got this territory that's out around Sandbridge and stuff. So there's hardly any stores. And all of a sudden, all these stores pop up, and I get the right to put my product in every one of them. They say I'm making all this money. It's hard work, but I'm making a lot of money. And I'm a single dad, because she's gone, and then she never really came back to us. And so I'm working like 70 hours a week. My son's going to a school that's out of district, so I got to drive him in my truck to school. First, I got to load the truck, then pick him up, drive him to the school. Then I got to go do my route. Then I got to bring him home. Then I got to finish my route. It's crazy, but with God and the support of your friends, you could do anything. It's just a matter of just put your one foot after the other, taking care of it, and so I got through that, and they bought my route. And I wasn't out of this money, but I didn't have a job. So another friend of mine in recovery, he's doing a Snyder of Hanover, and he says, we got an opening, we got a route. You want it? I said, yeah. I'm just saying NA and the family of NA helps you every time. If you're working a program, if you're responsible, if people care about you and trust you, you can get anywhere with this. So I've been to like 10 world conventions. I've been to over 300 other conventions. I've tried to sponsor over 200 men. Some of them just, ask me to sponsor them. That's the last I see of them. Some of them work 1, 2, 3 and don't want to do fourth step, and they're gone again. This is something I can't chase people to make them recover.
Right.
If you don't want this, don't worry. You're not going to get it. You have to want it. And when you want it, you have to go after it. Like you went after those drugs, you go after recovery, And pretty soon you find out that you're capable of a lot more than you ever thought you were. We got a lot of people around here who have stories similar to mine, but even better. They get doctorates. They get, they're owning big businesses. They're doing well, and it's all a matter of not using, having some faith in yourself, and having support. We have support. We have the support of each other. So if you want to get clean, you get a sponsor. You work steps. Steps are the key, because if you stay the same, you're going to keep doing what you always did. So what we have to do is work steps and have an active change of ideas and attitudes. And the only way to do that is to surrender, find a higher power you believe in, do an inventory, see how you got here, what's going on, and then you make some amends and you look at your character defects and you find out, how did I get here? You know, and I work in the recovery field. I'm a registered certified peer recovery specialist. I got to the point where I found out I had prostate cancer, and I thought I was going to die. And you hear cancer, you go, oh my God, but it turns out, this is 13 years later and it's undetectable. And I had to get back to work. And a woman in recovery offered me a job as a van driver for Virginia Beach site. Next thing you know, I'm meeting all these people that like got schizophrenia and bipolar and this, that, and the other. And I'm taking all these courses. And then they started saying they were getting more recovery in the van than they were, doing macrame or something. So the lady said, you need to apply for this job as a peer recovery specialist. And now at this point, I'm like, 65 years old, and I changed jobs to become a peer recovery specialist. And then 5 years later, I get to work with the city of Virginia Beach at 70 years old to work with Marcus Alert to help people who are thinking about suicide. And I'm not looking at quitting working anytime soon. I'm going to keep working until I'm 80, probably, as long as my health holds out and the bills aren't paid, So I just love being in recovery. I love helping other people. And if you're feeling down, the best thing you can do is help a newcomer. It gets you out of you, and when you help them, you realize I don't have it so bad, and then you feel good about who you are because you help somebody. So the main thing to remember is that this is a disease. It's progressive. It's fatal. It never gets better. It always gets worse. Your disease, when you wake up in the morning, it's already awake doing push-ups, trying to figure out some way to con you into coming back. So I have to do something spiritual every day. I have to, read just for the day. I have to ask God to help me stay clean. I have to thank him at night. I have to work with people that need help. I have to, work with my sponsees. And I tell you, I enjoy it. And at my age, if I was still trying to do what I used to be doing, I'd have been dead a long time ago. And I wouldn't have this great circle of friends that I have now. So I just want you to thank everyone for listening. I want to tell you, don't give up. 1 minute, 5 minutes for the miracle, and all of us are good people with a bad disease. So don't give up on yourself. Thanks for letting me share.
All right. Okay.